the Prime Minister's
Thank you, Rahul.
Independence Day speech and the key themes he laid out. And somewhere in the middle of it all, it seemed that the Prime Minister and the BJP taking for granted that they'll be back next year at the Red Fort, celebrating yet another Independence Day and assuming that the 2024 general elections are already won.
Thank you, Rahul, and wish you and all your viewers a very happy Independence Day. I think the Prime Minister today laid down the work that he has done, that his government has done over the last 9 years. He also laid down the vision for India as we enter the Amrit Kal, the performance of the first year, and how we see India emerging as a global superpower in the next 25 years when we shall be celebrating India's centenary of independence in 2047. Very clearly, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is confident that the work that he has done, that the love and affection of the people of India, that the outstanding results that the 9 years mantras of reform, perform and transform have led to in terms of inclusive development, sustainable development, will surely give him another term to serve the people as the Pradhan Sevak. This reflects his confidence and trust in the people of India, just as the people of India have reposed their love and faith and trust on him time and again.
Piyush ji, the Prime Minister's big promise, and he made this at your function at the new venue for the G20, the new ITPO, is that India would be the third largest economy in the next few years. He's saying 2027. Some experts think it could be a bit longer. Your critics, however, say that is this a case of the government wanting to count its chickens before they hatch? Because the promise of a $5 trillion economy by 2022 was met, and we still are a $3.7 trillion economy. We haven't reached $5 trillion yet, and therefore let's not celebrate it and believe that it's already happened till it actually happens. You're being accused of using this projection as one of your key campaign promises for 2024.
Rahul, you will recall that at the Bharat Mandapam program, the Honorable Prime Minister had extensively dealt on economic issues, how the country is making rapid progress, and why he feels encouraged that India will become a developed economy by 2047. His vision is clear, the roadmap is there, the investments are falling into place, the results are very encouraging, and we have absolutely no doubt in our mind. Every projection, not only by the government, but by reputed investment bankers, by reputed investment banks around the world, by reputed economists around the world, suggests that this is India's time. It's our moment under the sun. We have a young population, we have talent, we have skills, we have the enabling infrastructure being set into place, put into place, both by the government and the private sector. We have huge amounts of resources coming in, both through internal savings and international investments. The macroeconomic parameters are all sound and robust. All of this lends us to be very confident about India's future. I'll just correct your perspective. The $5 trillion economy was to be met by 2025. However, we are all aware that 2 years were lost due to the COVID situation and the Ukraine war that overcame circumstances soon after COVID. So I think one will have to factor that in, and you will recognize that we are well on track both to achieve $5 trillion and to move forward towards a $30-35 trillion economy, so that every section of society in India has a prosperous future.
You're seeing your critics in the Congress talk about the arithmetic inevitability, the likes of P. Chidambaram, Jairam Ramesh saying that this is guaranteed over the next few years in any case, regardless of who forms the next government. How do you respond to this charge about the arithmetic inevitability? India as a country, because of the population size, because of what's happening globally in terms of declining and aging populations, is bound to grow regardless of whether the Prime Minister and the BJP come back to power or not. How do you respond to this?
Well, this is the despondency of the Congress speaking. I think it's extremely unfortunate that a senior leader, a former finance minister, has such petty thinking. This is actually what has kept the country backward for so many years. The lost opportunities in 75 years of independence, a large part of which was led by the Congress party, is reflective of the sorry state of affairs that we inherited in 2014. I'm sure a reader of the Indian economy like you will recall the fragile five economy that we inherited. That was when Mr. Chidambaram was the finance minister, when he had to borrow at exorbitant interest rates, FCNRB deposits even to shore up the rupee and maintain fiscal stability with depleting foreign exchange reserves. I think it is evident that the Congress is bereft of ideas. They don't even recognize that unless smart investments are made in infrastructure, they don't even recognize that the technology levels in the world are changing and we'll have to keep abreast with these changes. For example, artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum computing, all of these are the areas of the future in which we will have to start adopting in India so that we are ahead of the curve. If we allow a party like the Congress and failed leaders like Rahul Gandhi and Chidambaram to have a say in the national economy, I am extremely concerned that we'll once again go backward and slide down like we saw in the UPA government. This Ghamandiya Gathbandhan of the Congress can only take us back to pitfalls and to the chalta hai attitude of the past. Prime Minister Narendra Modi believes in reform, he believes in performance, and that he believes will transform India to be a part of the world economy, to earn the trust of the world so that we can be a part of the global growth story.
Also, we've seen in the Independence Day speeches made by the leaders of different opposition parties, they're seeking to highlight Manipur. We saw what Rahul Gandhi said in Parliament and outside, alleging that Manipur has been split into two. They also highlighted Haryana and alleged that you've sprinkled kerosene, as it were. That's the charge. So how do you respond to this charge by the opposition, the alleged mishandling of the situation in Manipur and the current situation in Haryana?
Well, I think the opposition, instead of showing sensitivity, particularly in an ethnic clash in Manipur, is trying to politicize, sensationalize, and actually create more problems for the administration in resolving the situation in Manipur. The reality is that Manipur has had difficult times in the past. In fact, when the opposition or the Congress was in government there, we have seen months and months of blockades, so many people suffering and many losing their life on so many different occasions in the past. In fact, the Northeast as a whole has gone through very troubled times under the Congress. They believed in the divide and rule philosophy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi over the last 9 years has brought a healing touch to the entire Northeast. In fact, large parts of the Northeast have been made peaceful. The Armed Forces Special Provisions Act has been removed. There's peace, prosperity, there's growth, there's economic stability. The people are seeing welfare measures reach the poorest of the poor. It is unfortunate that a court verdict given under very sad circumstances caused a misunderstanding amongst a certain section of the people of Manipur, and that led to this very unfortunate set of incidents. The central government and the state government acted very, very fast and brought this situation under control. The situation is fast improving to normalcy. I hope the Congress party will not, for petty political gains, try to once again instigate or create a fresh problem for the nation.
Let's spend a moment talking about exports. The data that came out for July shows a 16% decline in exports to 32.25 billion exports, now contracting for the sixth straight month. The surge in manufacturing exports, Minister Goyal, was one of your big achievements till a few months ago. Now we're seeing exports decline, even though imports too have come down 17%, that's according to government data. How do you hope to deal with the global headwinds which are seeing exports fall for the sixth straight month in the way that they have?
Well, very clearly, India was on a highway. You saw our exports grow from $500 billion to about $776 billion in a short span of 2 years. That's 55% growth in only 2 years. Clearly, that was very, very rapid. Some of it led by inflationary tendencies. So we had a large amount of petroleum exports during the last year or last 2 years, particularly after the Ukraine conflict, which is currently down. We have also brought in measures to impose taxes on export of petroleum products. We have also stopped the export of many commodities like rice, wheat, different products which are required to maintain India's own food reserves and requirements of foodstuffs and raw materials. And therefore, I think if you see it in that context, our manufacturing exports are not showing a fall in absolute numbers or in volume terms. The larger part of the fall in exports is in petroleum products and in some cases in products which are discretionary spending like gem and jewelries or gold jewelry. And that is why you'll see a corresponding reduction in imports also. Our overall trade deficit is in fact lower than it was last year for the corresponding period.
Let's spend a moment on trade with China. One of the government's big efforts is to pull manufacturing away from China. We've made it tougher for Chinese companies to come and invest in Indian startups, for example, as was being seen as a trend. Despite that, India's exports to China are coming down and India's imports from China are continuing to surge, as a result of which our trade deficit with our neighbor across the Himalayas is the opposite of what we'd like it to be in terms of trend line. How confident are you that this will reverse soon, or do you think that, as is the case with the US and so many other economies across the world, trade with China and the skew towards this benefiting China more than it benefits India is only inevitable and there's not much we can do in the short to medium term about it?
No, it's absolutely possible to reverse this trend, and we are committed to reverse it. I would like you to reflect back on why this has happened. The reality is that way back in 2004 or 5, we saw the imports coming in from China surge, import duties were reduced, and large quantities of goods started coming in from China, which in fact killed India's domestic manufacturing, killed the investment story in India. We saw our country move into large imports from China, due to which the trade deficit with China actually grew by over 30 times. So 3,000% increase in our trade deficit with China in the 10 years of the UPA government. Sadly, the UPA believed in encouraging imports from China, due to which our domestic capacities did not keep pace with our demand. Over the last 9 years, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been encouraging investments in a big way in India. We are encouraging domestic manufacturing. We have brought in schemes like the production linked incentive scheme. We are supporting our textile sector. We are supporting various sectors, refineries, the power sector, renewable energy, manufacturing of machineries for renewable energy. All of these efforts have started bearing fruits. We are seeing more and more investments coming into India, and as we start meeting the growing Indian demand through domestically manufactured goods, I'm sure our imports from China will start coming down. We believe in an open and transparent economy, whereas China is an opaque and non-transparent economy, due to which they are able to dump goods into India We are taking action on several products which have seen a surge in imports from China, but at the same time, we have to balance the needs of our consumers. The fact that India is growing and is a fast growing economy means India's demand for goods and services is also growing very rapidly. Our exports to China are subdued because the Chinese economy is in the doldrums. The Chinese economy is slowing down. And very clearly, the Chinese do not have a level playing field when it comes to international trade, which India is taking up very strongly at all international fora. We are building up our partnerships with the developed world, the Western world, the democratic world in a much stronger way, which will help us wean away those countries from China and help India's domestic manufacturing take wings, have economies of scale and become more competitive to be able to serve the needs both of India and other countries.
President Xi Jinping will be in India for the G20 Summit in early September. Given everything that you just said about China and what's happening between India and China and what you're trying to do, how do you see the Xi-Modi dynamic play out? That's a question and that's a relationship the whole world will have its eyes on.
Well, I think the G20 is a summit of leaders of all the major economies of the world. China is one of the large economies of the world, and as is customary, we will be inviting all the leaders, and so will Mr. Xi Jinping be invited, along with all the other G20 leaders. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding the baton as the Indian presidency of the G20, and we are a country that believes in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. We will be most fair and respectful to all our guests who come as a part of the G20.
One of the big things that will happen is the B20 Summit next week, 25th, 26th of August. And a lot of top global corporates are coming in. As you liaise with them, as your ministry liaises with them about them coming to India, what's the mood that you're picking up? What you're trying to do is to get a lot of global corporations into India, into manufacturing as part of a China plus one pivot. To what extent do you think you've been able to make substantive headway relative to where we were a few months ago?
First of all, I'll just correct a wrong perspective that it's only a China plus one initiative. I think India on its own strength is today emerging as a superpower, is emerging as the world's fastest growing economy. They can see a demand from 140 crore Indians who are gradually moving out of poverty into the middle class and then into the more prosperous family with higher incomes. In this situation, India itself is a demand driver. India itself provides huge market opportunities. Along with that, our talent, our skill, our huge workforce, young workforce, our women-led development, all of these are helping India present itself as a very, very safe and attractive and trusted investment destination. I have heard about the B20 participation in different countries when they have the presidency. Never before have we seen the kind of enthusiasm that business persons across the world are showing to participate in India's B20. I've attended some of the earlier B20 programs in Gandhinagar and Startup India programs in other parts of the country. The enthusiasm is unbelievable. You will have some of the top Fortune 500 companies, chiefs coming into India, CEOs and chairmen coming to India for the B20. We'll have some of the top corporations who are looking to invest in India participating in the B20. In fact, if I may tell you, the difficulty that we are facing, and we were trying to resolve it through innovative seating arrangements only 2 days back, the difficulty we are facing is how do we recognize and respect all the senior people who are joining us, particularly given that in front of the stage, the width is a limitation. And within that limitation, how do we accommodate different people of very high caliber, very high respect, and representing very large corporations in a fair and equitable manner? That's a difficulty the CII, the main partners and our officials were grappling with in a meeting as recently as Monday.
You know, you're in charge with the whole setup at Bharat Mandapam in bringing it together. There was a big event with much fanfare when it was launched. I had an opportunity to go inside, see the venue where the G20 Summit meeting will take place. Do you have everything under control, or is this at some level feel like an Indian shadi where the barat is about to come and the girl's parents are, till the last moment working towards getting it right? I heard from the organizers, those who worked on the architecture and the design, some stories about how Piyush Goyal is a very tough taskmaster and how you were giving them impossible deadlines in a bid to get things ready.
Well, Rahul, if I may take you back to your first question, that is the Congress way of working, that everything will happen on its own and that the country will grow and infrastructure will come in, which has kept this country backward for so many years. Projects wouldn't come up in time, projects would all have long delays, cost overruns. The Modi style of government is deep monitoring, complete control to ensure that projects are held on time, and that is why he said his government not only does foundation stones but also does the inauguration. The Bharat Mandapam is clearly an example where he did the groundbreaking and he did the inauguration. Very soon, probably sometime next month, you will also see him inaugurating and dedicating to the nation another equally big, if not bigger, actually bigger convention center at Dwarka, which also he laid the foundation stone in 2018, late 2018, and despite COVID, it is completed and will be dedicated to the nation sometime next month. Why I am sharing this with you is that the Modi style of working is performance. It's driven by high quality performance. It's driven by timely execution. It's driven by resolving problems that come along the way, which are bound to come in. We had huge amount of problems. We had COVID for 2 years. We had Supreme Court very often stopping the work for different reasons. We had the NGT imposing a ban on construction year after year. We had to struggle with approvals from the state government at different points of time to ensure that they also complete their part of the work in time. So difficulties will come. As Prime Minister often says, बाधाएं आएंगी, लेकिन हम उन बाधाओं को पूरा करते हुए आगे चलते जाएंगे, निरंतर आगे चलते जाएंगे. कभी हम रुकेंगे नहीं, थकेंगे नहीं, हारेंगे नहीं. आई थिंक भारत मंडपम हो या द्वारका में इंटरनेशनल एग्जीबिशन कन्वेंशन सेंटर हो, ऐसे कई सारी परियोजनाएं देश भर में लाखों करोड़ की योजनाएं चल रही हैं, लाखों करोड़ का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इम्प्लीमेंट हो रहा है. ऑल ऑफ दिस will bear fruit and will be the foundation of a new India, of a developed India, a foundation which will for the next 30, 40, 50 and years to come hold India in good stead. This infrastructure, this development will be the defining features of a developed India in the years to come. So the Bharat Mandapam is fully ready. The work going on now is preparing the country pavilions, your media centers, and the last minute completion to make it even more beautiful, even more interesting and friendly.
And lastly, Piyush ji, the full focus will be on the G20 very soon. Your government has invested a lot of energy in making India's presidency special. What do you hope would be the lasting legacy and the big takeaway? We have a very expansive G20 agenda, but there are also differences amongst G20 countries on crucial global geopolitical issues like Russia, Ukraine. There's the India-China dynamic as well. What do you think would be the legacy Prime Minister Modi as G20 president and the BJP government hope to leave behind?
Well, I think our theme itself, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. The fact that we are talking of one earth, one family, one future, that itself is very unique, very all-encompassing, and speaks for India's contribution to the world. We are proud of our history, our legacy, our heritage, the rich culture that we have all inherited, And I think the world today beckons India to provide leadership to the problems that the world is facing, be it the war in Ukraine, be it the challenges of climate change and the need for a sustainable future, a circular economy, the life mission which Prime Minister Modi has articulated, the fact that the world today looks upon India as a trusted partner and wants to expand relations, business, and wants to work with India to bring a better future to 8 billion people in the world. They see Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the tallest leader in the world and India as the economy, as the country which will drive global growth and global prosperity. That will be the big takeaway for the world from India's G20 presidency.
Well, we'll leave it over there. Here's wishing you once again a very happy Independence Day, and I look forward to meeting you very soon in person. Minister Piyush Goyal, for your time, thank you very much.